Hello, everyone, and welcome to the final call. And on today's episode, I would like to discuss the importance of your youth. Now, though this episode is mainly directed to young people, you can still reflect when you were young on the discussion that I'm making today. So let's just think on these statements so far. Imagine when you were young, or as you are right now, how many of us may have wanted our own car to drive around just to show off, whatever it may be. How many of us may have wanted our own house and just to have our own space and just be free with ourselves? And how many of us may have just wanted a level of freedom that you yourself were controlling, and there was no responsibilities and there were no rules to hold you down, as to say. And then on the flip side, how many of us know how much car insurance is or what an MOT is? And how many of us know how many bills are required to manage a household? Or better yet, what sacrifices you would have to take in order to have the level of freedom that you so wish? And in all these statements that I'm making, I want us as young people to understand that it's not about being nervous when it comes to embracing your youth. It's more, or even having a level of arrogance about yourself saying, I'm fine the way that I am. It's more about your ability to self-actualize. Now, when it comes to self-actualization, it's your ability to see the best version of yourself and know what habits or behaviors you'd like to put in place to ensure that you can reach your best version. And I think that's a good focus for not even just when you're young, but throughout your adulthood, because there's always a point where you might feel that I just need to take the time to reflect in order to make sure that I'm going in the right direction with myself. Or sometimes certain situations in life might just hit you in the face and you're like, oh, okay, maybe I have to think about how it is I'm going to get out of this situation or be a better person because of it. So before I go into how you can reflect and be good in your youth or how to embrace it and whatever it is, I just want to make a flat statement that in your youth and being an adult is two different things. When you're adult, it's a continuous routine, non-stop, 24/7. Something is going to want you something somewhere. And half the time, it may be that some of your days are tolerable and you can manage your responsibilities well. And other days, you just want the ground to swallow you up and you return when you feel like it. Sometimes the situation may not be convenient for you and you may not know how to handle it. And for some people, it may lead to unfortunate circumstances where they lose their life because they just don't know how to handle something, or they didn't know who to turn to because of what they were going through. And so it's important that when you're young, you take advantage of being young. And I want to just go through how it is that you can reflect on the importance of your youth. Now, the first thing I would say is when you're young, you have a level of grace or leniency. Let's say I'll say when you're young, it starts from about 12, even 10, 12, going up to 25, 26, sometimes 30 if you are in a different country. But we'll stick between 10 and 26, 25, 26. And there's a level in which the way that people look at you, they will perceive that, okay, because this person is young, they are learning, and we shouldn't just immediately say you're wrong or you don't know, because it's trial and error for you. You're learning how to be a better person. But when you're an adult, sometimes people just look at you like, you should just know how to do it because you're an adult. There is a higher expectation for you to become correct and be good or be have proper conduct at the end of the day for most situations that happen in your life. And sometimes you might go behind closed doors and be like, but Why is it that I have to be perfect all the time? And that's not necessarily the case. You cannot be perfect all the time. Now, the boundaries between where your youth can be problematic for you is when you go into certain things that mainly an adult would be concerned, or it's adult activities that you just may not have the level of experience to handle it. So certain things include, maybe you committed a crime and you ended up going to prison, or you were abused, or you were raped, or you had a teenage pregnancy at some point, or you became a teen father at some point. Also, sometimes the poverty or the scarcity of your life at home, or where you see yourself, or it can be like drug or alcohol abuse you might go through, or the death of a relative or a close family member might be another problem. Or if you go to school and then your behavior becomes so bad that you have to transition somewhere else, or you get kicked out altogether and you don't have any education to run to, or it could be the opposite, that you don't have any access to education and you just have to fend for yourself. Or in sad circumstances, a sudden illness comes upon you and no one teaches you how to handle certain illnesses that come in your life. You just have to adapt the best way that you can. Now, with all of these reasons, or reasons that you may have thought about as I was speaking, some of these things directly happen to you because of your own choices, or they can indirectly happen to you and you can be just a victim of the circumstance. But these things will always change you no matter what. Even if you try to say, I'm fine and nothing's happened, something has happened to you. And at the end of the day, you either come out for the better or for the worse in terms of how you choose to adapt to that situation. And the best advice I could give is keep the solution in mind, even if it is, and now it's easier said than done, keeping the goal in mind. Because most days you'd be like, oh, but how can I get up and just do that very thing that is important to me? Sometimes you just want to just lie on your bed and nobody comes speak to you, or you disappear for a while and then come back when you want to. But if you just think about the small everyday thing, that it can be just a moment of just getting up and having that routine of doing every day, rather than saying that I'm just going to show up with full effect and fake it till you make it kind of thing. Fake it till you make it can be very helpful, but when it comes to being real with yourself, it's not always great, because you can tell yourself a whole lot of lies that aren't necessarily true about you, and then you just kind of lose yourself in the instance, and that's not really always beneficial for you. And when you keep the solution in mind, you better yet, I'll just say as a separate point, always try to have an attractive mindset over just being attractive or having a handsome face, because at the end of the day, how you think is also what will draw somebody to you. And if people can see that your mindset is, how do I say it, beneficial or productive to you, they would also might want to take some of those qualities that you have and apply it to themselves, and maybe it might help them too. So, how do we reflect on the importance of our youth? So, I've put together a few points again just to express that. And the first one being is that unless you're an orphan, you are a responsibility to somebody else. What I mean by that is that your parents or a loved one or another family member is responsible for you, because they do know that you can't do everything. So in your where you are, you have to think that I just have to be grateful that somebody's even looking after me. To show up where you can. Nobody's expecting you. Show up in your capacity. Nobody's expecting you to take full reins and know how to manage everything. If you can do certain things and you can help your parents, or you can help people who are looking after you, then do so. I'm sure they're going to appreciate something. It's better than you not doing anything at all. And third, just look, listen, and learn. Sometimes you don't have to speak, just watch the person do what they do, and you can learn something out of it. And some days may you may learn, you may agree to disagree, and that's all okay. Nobody is expecting you to be a carbon copy of your parents. You will develop your own identity one way or another. Number two, your youth or every chapter of your life is a form of transition. And within that, everything you do will have to be in moderation. And the mistakes that you come across are all part of your growth. It's better to take a risk rather than have reckless, it's good to take a risk, but being reckless with your risk will bring the consequences. So at the end of the day, you need to assess, is that risk worth it, or can I take a step back and find another way in which I want to do what it is that I want to do. At the end of the day, your consequences will meet you later on in life, and it will test your readiness to adapt. Number three, I should say, you can dream without responsibilities. What I mean by that is, let's say you're 14, 15, 16, you're transitioning from primary or secondary school or JHS to SHS, however, you're transitioning from primary school to secondary school, or secondary school to sixth form, or JHS to SHS, as it is in Ghana. So in those periods, you'd have to think, okay, if there's something I want to do with myself, I know I don't have another child to look after, or I don't live at home on my own, or I don't have to work 2 jobs just to keep myself afloat. It's more that I can think and put in the necessary steps to get to where I need to, and then whatever I meet on the way, I will do so. And that's easier because then at least you know there's nothing hindering you. It's only yourself that's going to be in your way. Another, just to put into perspective, let's say you're an athlete, but you got bored of long distance running. You can tell yourself, okay, maybe I don't want to be an athlete anymore, but let me think of the other sports that require stamina or some sort of longevity. And those sports can be football, could be basketball, could be netball. There's loads of sports that still involve running, but those sports, they also require role reversals or changes of environment. You're not always going to be doing the same laps day in, day out. You would have different positions that you do or complete, and it can test your ability to apply those same skills that you initially had in one plan of your life with something else. And all in all, that tests your ability to adapt and not necessarily stay one way. And you prove to other people that, okay, this person thought and they didn't give up, they just tried something new. Another reason why it's good to reflect on why being young is important is you create like memorable experiences for yourself, and those memorable experiences can also be vital to when you decide to have your own children. Just think of when you were young, or when you're as you are young now. Think of the cartoons you might watch, or the movies you watch, or the toys that you play with, or the foods that you eat, or the like toys that you play with, or the games that you play in school. All of these things, you will remember them in the future, and you might look at your children and be like, oh, I want you to play this game because this game works for me, and I'd like to share it with you. If you don't like it, then I know and you know that, okay, there's something else that's new, there's something else that's interesting. But it forms the foundation, because if you didn't do any of those things, then how would you know how to impart happiness to your own child. And to build up on that point, I would say that when you're young, you teach your younger siblings or younger people how how to enjoy being young before you transition to an adult. Imagine if you're in your house and, again, let's say you're 14, 15, 16, or even 18, and you have a younger sibling who's between the ages of 5 and 12. If they see you playing with them, going out socializing a little bit, and then balancing that with your chores, they would know that, okay, life doesn't always have to be hard. Children recognize changes in their environment very quickly, especially if they're very young. So you're always considerate about what it is that you put in front of children, because they'll always ask questions. Why is this? Why is that? Why? It's always a why. And sometimes you'd be like, oh, I have to explain everything. But it's only their curiosity, and it's when they understand the world around them, then their development becomes easier and it becomes fruitful. So as an older sibling, when you embrace your youth, you set the standard for their own healthy development, and your development going forward will be good too, because you've decided that, okay, I've learned the lessons that I need to learn in my youth, and this is what I want to take from it and take it to when I become an adult. And in a way, you don't want to lose you don't want to lose the child in you, because being an adult, you don't want to be all tough and like mean faced all the time. You have to be joyful and goofy and play like malleable is the word, not just one way, because somebody will look at you like, do you know how to relax? Like, why are you always tense? Like, is there a rod stuck up you somewhere? And it's not always the best way to be. Like, just let loose, let go sometimes. It's okay. So, how do we stay productive when it comes to how do we stay productive in our youth? So, first thing is learn skills one at a time. Now, there's a whole heap of skills in the world that you can learn, but learn them as you go. Don't try to cram them because don't try to cram them in all at one time. At the end of the day, you will be a jack of all trades and a master of none, which basically means if you learn everything but you don't know how to apply it, then what's the point? You'd be totally, yeah, you'd just be useless at this point. Learn a skill one at a time. That can be, and learn the skills that are vital to you. So that can be learning how to cook because there's certain foods that you enjoy eating, or it can be problem solving, knowing how to manage certain issues that come your way, or time management, how to be punctual, money management, how does money operate in spheres of life, what do certain currencies, what's the strengths of certain currencies, or like stock market, and anything that's important to you, or even public speaking or behavior in public, how to network. So if you're in certain social environments and you needed somebody who's good in media or somebody who was good with events or something, know how to introduce yourself to those people and get the relevant information that you need out of them in case you were to work with them, or build up on your emotional intelligence. Your personal style is another one you can do, or learn how to be neat, how to be clean. Like, it can be as very simple or as very as complex as you want it, but every skill that you learn has to mean something to you. It can't mean something to your best friend or your mum or your dad. It has to mean something to you because you're the one that's going to apply those skills later on in life. To do your work experience or your NSS with intention, that is going to be your first exposure to the world of work. And if you decide that whilst you're doing it that this is something that you don't want to do, then you know that when you complete it, you can start afresh, or you can see if there's something else that you can do, or you can, whilst you're completing your work experience or NSS, by the end of it, if you were intentional, then you know that immediately, okay, this is the role I want to go into when I'm done. Or you prove to the employer, okay, this person, if I could employ them and they wanted to work with me, then I would happily take them on board because they have shown me the attributes that are good for as an employee. And then think about, when you're doing your work experience, ask the relevant questions. When you're exposed to a certain career, there's always going to be problems or challenges that any employee faces. The boss may not necessarily tell you the ins and outs or the secrets or the hardships, but the employees definitely will if they are willing to expose certain things. So certain questions that you can ask might be, okay, obviously you can ask about the pay because everybody will ask about the pay. Two, you can ask, what's my work-life balance? Do I have enough time to be social, or do I have enough time to consider if I was to start a family, can I balance the job that way? What's the maternity, paternity sort of care that's offered to me if I do decide to start a family? Or what is the gender diversity? Is that job mainly, is it more female dominated or is it male centered? Or is it that your HR or your municipal, are they a department that is very responsive if you were to come with them about a problem? Or are they somebody that's like, oh, I'll just put in the back burner and hope for the best that your issue gets sorted? All these questions will help you understand if this is the career that you want to go into or you want to start again. And then another point that you can think about is, remember, life isn't one way. You can always start again. Even if you are in your 30s or your early 40s, it doesn't mean that you can't have another career. Every skill that you learn in different careers can be transitioned somewhere else. And to go back to the point of when you're young and you're thinking about the very point that I just stated, don't think that, okay, I'm just going to be a doctor and I'm just going to be a doctor. If you decide that you don't want to be a doctor, have a plan B. Because maybe in the preparation of being a doctor, something tests you and then you're like, oh no, I can't do this. This is not happening. So, and you don't know what to fall back onto. Then you spend like for another 2 years or something, or maybe a year, thinking about what can I transition into, and you waste your time. So have different options and then see what works out for you the older that you get. Think of, let's say you were in tech and you learnt certain tech skills. You don't necessarily just have to be a coder or an analyst. Those same skills can work in places of government or in schools or certain levels of cybersecurity or in hospitals, because it's so broad and everybody works with systems and points of management and processes. If you have a certain niche that a company needs and you present it well, they will definitely hire you because you've proven that you can solve a problem. Everybody wants somebody to solve their problem at the end of the day. So if you can prove yourself useful, then it's a good stepping stone to get by, even if you haven't got everything figured out. And then have fun responsibly. Now, everybody wants to do something that may necessarily not be good for them, but try not to be naive to the consequences of it. If you know full well that if you were to run in front of a car and the car's going to knock you over, just know, don't run in front of the car. It doesn't make any sense. So just know that if there's a risk that you're trying to take, know where to stop. you can't save everybody, but you can definitely save yourself. And that's definitely important. However, if sometimes you do fall into that risk and the consequences of your actions come upon you, don't criticize yourself. Rather, look at that situation and think, okay, there's an antidote, or I'm the antidote to that situation. Meaning, I can flip it around and say, okay, if this is my situation, what can I do to be better? Who can I ask to get me by? And take it one step at a time again. And then, most importantly, just know what keeps you grounded. Whether it's certain ideals or scriptures or certain role models that you look up to, keep your focus on that. Rather than saying, oh, I'm giving up hope and I don't want to live anymore and everybody's criticizing me and I don't want to hear anything. Just keep moving. Then try not to live older than you are. Again, that comes back to my point at the very beginning. When you cross that boundary into certain things that only adults do, you don't think about what it is that you need to change in your character or change in your mindset to take on that responsibility or to take on that action. And you might end up exposing yourself to something that you weren't ready for, and your character might not come out for the good. You might just dwindle into yourself and lose some self-esteem or be more insecure because you didn't take the prep. You didn't allow yourself to grow into whatever it is that you want to grow into. And then ask for help where necessary. It's not a weak thing to admit that you don't understand something. It's better to get the advice and take everything with a pinch of salt, or collate what you hear and then figure out, okay, I know I can do this and I know I can't do that. And that's where I'll start. And final point I'd like to talk about is choosing your friends wisely. Now, when you're with your friends, you have to think that you represent them and they represent you. So whoever's around you, then somebody's gonna ask you, can you back me up one day, or can you just like cover me? And could you do that if it was somebody that you don't necessarily respect or you don't trust, or they haven't got your back sometimes? So I feel like this point is important, so I elaborated on it a bit more, and I said to myself, if you have the friends that you do and you wish to keep those friendships going on in your life, how do you reflect, or how do you keep a filter on the friendships that you wish to have and the friendships that you wish to let go of? And I thought that, firstly, is your friendships on a mutual ground, or do you believe at some point your friends might let you down or they might take advantage of you? And yes, that is possible and you may not always know, but some tendencies show up in people and you're like, yeah, I know in later life that might not be the best thing. So I might have to consider my friendship with this person, or how close I allow myself to be with that person. The same friends that you're thinking about now, maybe 5-10 years from now, could you see them as a godfather or a godmother to your to your child? Or is it that, let's say you got into a relationship or you were married, for example, could you tell your partner, okay, this is my friend and I want you to meet them? Would you feel embarrassed, or would you feel honored to show that exact person to the person that's important to you, which is your partner? And also, could you trust them with certain personal secrets of yours going down the line? Because obviously everybody develops their maturity one way or another, but you also have to think that in your personal life, is there certain things that you're okay with sharing with that person that you may not want to share with another person because of how they take it on and see the situation of your life for as it is? Or is it that when you've hit a bad patch, do you know that, okay, if I call this person, they would answer, they would help me? If they can't do that for you, then friendships are, the strength of your friendship will definitely be tested, because you do rely on your friends when you've hit rock bottom. And if you know you can't reach out to them, you feel like, who do I actually go to? Especially sometimes if you may not have the best relationship with your family and you rely on your friends a lot, you need to have that friend that you can definitely go to if you need help. So, encompassing choosing your friends wisely, I would say that your friendships are meant to have variety at the end of the day, but you just have to be mindful of how you give yourself to each and every person that you call a friend. And knowing the role that they play in your life is a lot easier for them to understand than them trying to mold to suit you, because then you lose the essence of why it is that you're a friend with that person. And then sometimes it might just fizzle out into nothing. So, in summary, your youth is the foundation for your adulthood. And obviously, cliche, you only get it once. But you have to also learn the balance between equipping yourself with real life skills and then also having fun when you need to, because letting loose is good. And then mistakes will definitely happen, but keeping your options open and keeping the solution in mind will help you to adapt, even if you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. Just know, if you keep moving forward, you'll get to somewhere. Be responsible and be accountable from now. That will take practice, and nobody will expect you to be perfect by the end of it. There are adults to this day that are still learning how to be responsible and accountable. And they may not necessarily show it to you, but it's definitely happening. And they will also get humbled the same way you will get humbled. So whatever you do now will shape your future. So keep moving forward. Don't stress, but just try your best, as my examiners would say before exams. Because at the end of the day, your life is about you. So thank you for listening, and though it was a youth-centered episode, I hope it was beneficial to some adults too, and hope you have a good day.